Super Saturday time, and you know what to do. If you want the best tips for Saturday's NRL action for round 22, then listen on. We start the day with a Queensland derby between the Gold Coast Titans and the Brisbane Broncos. Now, you've got to look at the numbers, and the numbers actually point here in the Gold Coast favour. They've won their past 2 games against Brisbane, and they've also won 4 of their past 5 matches, while Brisbane have only won 1 of their past 5. And the Titans actually lead the head-to-head stats in this one against Brisbane, 6-5 since 2019. So everything is pointing to a tight match and likely a Titans win, keeping their season alive and putting the fork in the Brisbane Broncos. Now, Brisbane have lost 7 of their past 8 games, and their defense has struggled, allowing 26.37 points per game during that stretch. So look for the Titans to get an upset here, or at least cover with a 4.5 point head start. Then we move into Melbourne versus St. George. Some pretty huge trends here for Melbourne. The last time St. George beat the Storm in Melbourne was back in 1999 in the qualifying final, when Melbourne then turned things around and beat the Saints in the grand final in the same year. So there's been 16 straight victories for Melbourne in Melbourne at whatever stadium against St. George, and it's going to be the same again this weekend. Now, when the Saints lose, they lose big. They have an average losing margin of 27.3 points and concede 39.5 points in their 9 losses this season. So their attitude when they're down is not in their favour. So expect the Melbourne Storm to cover despite starting back 19.5 points in this one. Then the final game of the evening will be the Cronulla Sharks against South Sydney. Now, a pretty tough one to tip in my opinion. Both teams are struggling for form. The Cronulla Sharks have lost 6 of their past 8, which, even though they're sitting 4th on the table, they started the season 9-1, which is very, very luring. Now, for South, they've also struggled lately. They've lost 2 of their past 3. Their defense has fallen off a little bit, but they are getting a 11.5 point head start in this game. Now, with the Sharks, in 4 of their past 5 wins have been under 10 points, even before their tough losing patch here. So getting the points with Souths, you have to take them, I believe, with their attack still working fairly well despite their defense dropping off a little bit. So there are your 3 tips for Super Saturday NRL round 22. Now, remember, gamble responsibly and happy punting.